All right, Trekkies and horror fans, buckle up. Star Trek Infection VR isn't the usual warp speed and wisdom Trek experience. It's survival horror in deep space. Imagine classic Star Trek vibes thrown into a nightmare. A mutated crew, psychological terror, and a Vulcan hero in a fight for their mind developed by Played with Fire. This is a bold, unexpected twist for the franchise, landing straight onto MetaQuest 3 and PC VR. If you thought you knew Trek, think again, because Infection VR is about to blow your mind with insane features, body horror, and some of the creepiest sci-fi storytelling ever. Let's move towards the 10 insane facts. Survival horror in the Star Trek universe. Forget diplomacy and peaceful exploration. This adventure crash lands you into pure survival horror on the USS Lumen. No bridge crew or red shirt melodrama here. Something's turned your ship's crew into twisted, monstrous mutants, and it's up to you to survive and unravel the mystery. The horror vibe is everywhere. Claustrophobic corridors, jump scares, and disturbing mutations take classic Trek optimism and flip it upside down. Even long-time Trekkies didn't expect this kind of genre shift, but it's got fans in shock and awe. The psychological dread and body horror set a fresh precedent for Star Trek in gaming, making this VR journey feel uniquely terrifying but still deeply Trek at its core. Play as a Vulcan under siege. Infection VR puts you in the boots and mind of a Vulcan Starfleet officer. That legendary Vulcan logic and nerve is constantly being tested because the infection starts messing with your sanity and your body. Your composure cracks as traumatic memories resurface, and the ship seemingly learns your deepest fears, twisting the story in surprising ways. And it's not just a story beat. Gameplay literally asks you to choose between resisting mutation to stay Vulcan or embracing it for wild new powers that change how you play. For science fiction fans, it's a bold twist where your own mind is part of the battlefield. Mutations that change gameplay. One of the wildest mechanics in Star Trek Infection is how your Vulcan character mutates over time. The alien entity on board changes more than just your looks. It transforms your abilities. As the infection deepens, you gain unstable powers that can save your skin or drive you deeper into madness. You might unlock psychic attacks, brute strength, or tech upgrades, all with unpredictable side effects. This mechanic isn't just cosmetic. It alters your interaction with the world, your approach to combat, and even how your Vulcan persona reacts under pressure. You'll have to balance risk and reward, fight for control, or surrender for power. It's the ultimate Trek dilemma, reinvented for horror VR. Full VR body experience. Infection VR goes all in on immersion. You inhabit a full body avatar instead of just floating hands. As the infection mutates you, your own VR form physically transforms, forcing you to adapt gameplay and perspective. You monitor your condition using tools like the Medical Tricorder, decide whether to heal or exploit mutations, and use tactile VR hand control for crafting and combat. Every change is visible and impacts your experience. Sometimes arms elongate, your grip morphs, or senses distort. It's creepy and deeply inching, making the horror viscerally real in VR. This physicality is rare and pushes emotional tension to new levels for Trek games. Psychological terror and mind games. So the infection doesn't just mess with your Vulcan body, it attacks the mind too. Expect reality-bending visuals, disturbing flashbacks, and hallucinations that force you to question what's real. Shadows might move, voices echo with fear, and ship corridors twist unexpectedly. Your decisions throughout the game affect your sanity and outcome. This mind horror is a bold move, making Trek less about clean starship diplomacy and more about confronting your own nightmares. It's a test of both strategy and nerves, adding psychological depth rarely seen in VR titles or Star Trek adaptations. Iconic Trek tools, phaser, tricorder, and more. Don't worry, cause classic Trek gear is here, twisted for survival horror gameplay. You get hands-on with the phaser for combat, deploy stealthy Vulcan nerve pinches, and use your tricorder not just for scanning, but also tracking mutations and threats. The hyperspray lets you heal, craft items, or push back against the infection using authentic Starfleet tech. VR hand controls power everything, making each interaction tactile and urgent. These tools aren't just fan service, they're vital for solving puzzles, sneaking around, and fighting off mutated crew. It's Trek technology, reimagined for a desperate life-or-death struggle. Embrace or resist infection. It's your choice. The game changes depending on whether you resist the infection or let it mutate you. Embracing mutations gives you new powers and easier combat, but at the cost of your Vulcan identity and sanity. Resisting means tougher fights and fewer abilities, but you preserve discipline and can access unique story paths. This moral choice system is dynamic and impacts gameplay, endings, and NPC reactions. For role players and Trekkies, it's a philosophical challenge. Do you stay true to yourself or risk everything for survival? The branching consequences make replay value high and keep tension running through every decision. Real survival elements, horror meets strategy. Beyond horror, Infection VR is a survival game at heart. You'll scrounge for resources, craft gadgets, and solve environmental puzzles. Managing health, sanity, and inventory is crucial. With limited healing supplies and shifting ship layouts, VR motion controls make inventory, juggling and item crafting physically immersive. Nothing's automatic or easy. You'll have to explore, scan, and adapt quickly as the infected ship keeps changing. Tense encounters and resource scarcity make every moment a potential game changer, combining classic survival mechanics with Trek's love of logic and quick thinking. Developed by horror pros. Infection isn't just made by random devs. The studio Played with Fire previously made standout VR games like Mixture and Stargaze. The horror publisher, Broken Mirror Games, is part of Bloober Team, known for franchises like Layers of Fear and Blair Witch. This pedigree shows up in creepy sound design, intense atmosphere, and haunting story beats throughout the game. They took Trek's legacy and dared to flip it into mind-bending horror without losing the sci-fi roots. That's a big deal for VR fans and anyone itching for Star Trek to take new creative risks. Release date and platform details. Star Trek Infection VR drops first on MetaQuest 3 and Quest 3S in late 2025, with a PC VR Steam release following not long after. It's only the second ever Trek VR game after Bridge Crew, making this a milestone for franchise fans wanting immersive experiences. The launch is staggered for maximum reach, and early previews have hyped up horror, replayability, and unique VR mechanics. This means Infection VR sets a new bar for sci-fi gaming and Trek adaptations, proving the universe still has room for innovation and fresh genres. So there you have it, 10 absolutely insane facts about Star Trek Infection. Survival horror, mind games, body mutations, and iconic Trek tools all collide in one bold package. This isn't just a game, it's a test of wit, nerve, and your love for Trek's darker side. If you're ready for the franchise to step way outside its comfort zone, Infection VR is the wild ride worth following. Comment below if you'd survive the Lumen or Bale at the first jump scare.